been 1 year since a beloved Camelback High School track coach was shot and killed, seemingly at random. The family continues demanding answers from Phoenix police, as they say there have been no updates on the case or the search for the killer. We have the parents of David Denogean joining us today. First off, thank you so much for being here, Judy and Coach D. I've had the pleasure of working with the two of you and the rest of your family, not only for covering stories on the case itself, but also all of the beautiful memorials that were held in David's honor. And we just see through that how much of an impact he had on this community. He was a teacher, a coach, a friend, and a mentor to so many. And I know he is deeply missed. So first off, what do you want people to remember about your son?
He was just a good person. It's just, genuine at heart. He loved everybody. He was just larger than life. He filled up a room, When David left, he left with his whole body, and he hugged you. He gave you these great bear hugs. He was just a good person.
And the same thing Judy said, David was like bigger than life, and he's the son I always wanted. And he has a brother too, Daniel, and we're proud of them both, and his sister Denise. But David was just a truly special guy, almost like a Renaissance man. I mean, from politics to music to sports, obviously. He just was really an intellectual person. He had a wide variety of friends, great people too, and just a good person, a good soul, and we miss him dearly.
I know that as a coach and a mentor to a lot of students, he really connected with so many people, and you were able to meet some of those students. What did they tell you? I
think they really were inspired by David. And I had a number of them that just said, hey, he just felt like he was one of our family members. He listens to us, understands us, and wants the best for us. And I think that's really important. So it wasn't all about how well they might have done athletically, but that David really cared for them as people. And I think that's most important.
Yes. A lot of people that I've spoken with have mentioned that.
He was like a father to us. He was like a brother that we never had, He meant a lot to us.
He made us have the passion to do this sport and everything. It was more than this sport. It was more like a family whenever he was around.
His, murder, so tragic, especially because so many questions that remain unanswered. And that's really the tough part about all this. So let's go back to that day of November 25th, 2022. It was the day after Thanksgiving, and that was the last day that you had spoken to him, right, on Thanksgiving?
We met for Thanksgiving dinner, and it was joyous, as always, a great family get-together, and, David was able to hold his niece, a brand new baby, Daniel, his brother's firstborn, our first grandchild. So it was just a special evening, and when it came to close, we normally would have seen David the next day. We're big Sun Devil alumni, obviously, and the rivalry game was going to be the next day, but David was going to go watch England play the United States in soccer, World Cup soccer, so he wasn't going to make it.
The next day, I know he was with his girlfriend. They were doing stuff earlier that day, but then he went home and at his apartment decides to walk his dog. What do you know went on after that?
It was just a normal evening, He left the house about 6, and then Jordan just noticed that the dog was back in the yard and without her collar and without her harness. So she thought that's weird because, Evie she was still a little young pup. And so she walked out to see what was going on. She heard all the sirens and everything. So she started walking towards Maryland, 12th Street, and they live off of Maryland, 12th Street.
So yeah, that area was 12th Street in Maryland.
Yeah. She started walking north until she got to where the scene where it was, and she initially called Daniel. Daniel's our other son, and he's a firefighter for Phoenix Fire, and told him what she thought. She thought maybe at first that he had gotten hit by a car, And then she got up there, and I guess she did talk to the police, and they told her, well, you can't go over there. And they had already taken David to the hospital. And so she called Daniel, told him, I think David's been shot.
Yeah, I bet in disbelief and not understanding everything that happened.
The whole time.
Yeah, and we talk about that area. Unfortunately, even though it was a populated area, people were out. No one has come forward with information, which has been hard. There was a restaurant, correct, that was, right in front, and as well as a convenience store and like a little laundromat. But what we do have later, police were able to release an image of the suspect as well as a little bit of surveillance video. Talk about what we see in that video.
The video actually that was provided by Silent Witness actually shows the murderer running up behind David and then kind of veering off into the sidewalk, into the street from the sidewalk, and turning and facing David and shooting him multiple times. And of course our son never heard this person coming up behind him. He was listening to a podcast and walking his dog, so pretty much his focus was straight forward, not behind him to the side. And obviously David didn't have much time to react, unfortunately. And then obviously the people who were on the patio at the restaurant, they witnessed the event, and some of them probably were scrambling for cover. And the dog, Evie, broke free and tried to get away, and very, very much traumatized.
Yeah.
And Evie tried to get back home, and from what we've been told, that the gunman actually passed Evie on the way back as he ran back to wherever,
wow,
getaway car or wherever he was going.
Yeah.
So
it was a quick interaction that happened there, and
right.
So fast.
Yeah.
Really, really quick and unexpected. And as Judy mentioned, David never really went out and walked at the same time. So if someone was trying to stake him out, David might go out earlier one afternoon, maybe later in the evening, but
right.
He didn't have like a stated time.
Yeah.
And on that evening, it was going to be a short walk because he was going to come back, and he was a gamer, liked to play with his friends, and was going to be doing that. So what was supposed to be maybe a 30-minute walk ended up being a forever for us.
At this point, you've been able to speak, with detectives, or at least the last time, they still mentioned to you that this was likely random, correct?
Mm-hmm.
According to them, they claim it's 99% random, and until the investigators get the information they need, we might not ever know.
And I know that one of the things that you've pointed out to me in the past is that you wish you could get a little more information as to where the investigation stands. Mm-hmm. I've reached out as well. They continue to say that, of course, this is an open and active investigation, but beyond that, they're unable to say much more. Going throughout this past year, trying to continue forward, but with no information, how has that been?
It's been very tough. It's been an everyday thing. We always wonder, why is my son? Why our son? Why did this happen to him? David was a good guy.
Yeah, I just think we're coming down on a year. November 25th marks the first anniversary of David being gone, and obviously his first birthday in heaven. We want to look at it that way also, to put a positive spin on it. But it's very difficult, Ashley. People always tell us, closure and justice, but we know that'll never happen for us. David's not going to come back, and the importance for us to raise the Silent Witness Fund isn't in as much for us, I don't think, but for the community, that maybe we can take this person off the street so it doesn't destroy another family's life like it's destroyed us, because it has destroyed us. I mean, we can put on the good face in front of the camera and when we're talking to other people, but the pain is very real. And it's difficult to understand, and I wouldn't want anybody to have to ever understand it. But, as we get to this November 25th, it's tough. It is. Every day is a struggle.
Yeah.
And we can only pray for guidance, for strength and understanding, because we are not receiving much from the authorities at all. I think in the past year we've met twice, once the very next day after it happened, And then a month later in December, when we called for a meeting to say, hey, where's this going? What are we supposed to do? But again, I know the nature of their investigation. They have a job to do.
Right.
And we're hoping with a silent witness, someone will come forward and help solve this or give them a tip so that way it can go towards, solving David's crime so they can work on somebody else's crime, because we know there's so many people out there at this time.
There are. What is your, biggest hope right now? Is that it, finding the person and make sure they aren't going to do this again to somebody else?
We just hope and pray that they find the person that did this to David. Because no other family should have to go through this. It's too painful. It's too hard. And nobody knows until you go through it, And it's just hard to go through days, weeks, months without him. Here it's going to be a whole year, and I still can't believe that he's gone.
What's really difficult, and kind of like Judy said, we're trying to figure out why and how come David and why this way. And we pray for everybody out there. We know there's a number of families, parents who have lost children this past year through unfortunate things, car accidents, cancer, drownings, all types of things that happen. But we're left with not even knowing why this was done. We don't have a reason. Not that a reason helps those other parents either, but for us, it's really truly a very lonely type of feeling that we would never want anybody to experience, ever.
I can't even imagine. And, when you are looking at the footage, that is, the last moment that you get to see anything or know anything. How did it make you feel? Because you're witnessing the moment of when all of this took place.
When they first released that, they didn't give my husband, my son, any notice that they were going to show that. So it was very traumatic to see that. I always watch the news, and I saw that, and I'm thinking, here's my son on the news, and they're showing the guy. I mean, they didn't actually show him shooting David, but I mean, that was next, They could have at least let us know that this was coming out, That was really hard.
It was very disheartening. I actually had my son, Daniel and I had the opportunity to see the actual footage the day after David was murdered. They asked, do you want to see the video? I go, no. Why do I want to see my son being murdered? I can imagine it, and the imagination or the images in my mind are more than enough. I don't need to see it, let alone them tell me later on that they dropped the ball, that they should have contacted us.
Looking at the entire year and the stories that I've been able to share in David's memory have been so beautiful, inspiring. So let's talk about some of those. The first one I remember is the toy drive, and that's coming up again December, because Christmas was one of David's favorite holidays to give back. So let's talk about that, how that went last year and what your hope is for this year.
Last year, Frank, right after we buried David and had his services, that was about the 12th of December, and Frank says, we have to do something in David's memory. And so we thought about it, and Frank goes, we both thought about it, and we said, we should do a toy drive to, in his name. So little by little, he had one of his students, former students, make a poster, and he called up another student that's a postmaster at DFW, and he said, Coach, you can come here, and Daniel called some of his buddies from the Phoenix Fire. They had a fire truck come, and and then in like those 2 weeks before we had it, I mean, it just came together. We started looking for donations. We went and bought some bikes. We bought some, we went and got a tree from Goodwill, decorated it, the day before. And we just had an overwhelming outpouring of love for that, Everybody that came over went away happy from that, and the kids were so excited. That's what made us feel really good, because David loved Christmas. I mean, he'd count his presents. To do that in his memory was really a joy.
And we're very lucky, though, not just toys. People donated apples, oranges, all type of things,
Yeah.
stockings. And I don't know how we did it because those 2 weeks were like a blur for us, how we kind of put it together. And this will be the second annual, David Denogean's Toy Drive. And we will be posting that. The date will be a week, the Saturday before Christmas.
How
almost a
wonderful.
week.
December 16th.
Yeah.
So it will be at the same place. So we'll be more specific with the venue, the VFW post up there on Thomas.
Yeah.
David's Vigil, which we will do again on the 25th of November.
Yeah.
And it'll be at the same place. And our plan is to have a walk. We're going to walk to the place where David walked and, breathed his last breath, took his last breath, and say some prayers. And people will share thoughts and like last year and memories. And like I said, even it's the anniversary of his death, but his first birthday in heaven. So we want to look at it that way.
Make it very special.
Definitely. And then other things to come.
Yeah.
The rescue mission, we hopefully tie in with them. There's a 5K walk, hopefully planned.
There was a walk last year, too. I know that we got some video and went out there. That was beautiful. So that was a great walk, a lot of people. And then also, since he was former Camelback High School track coach, talk to me about them and what they did to honor him and you guys.
They unveiled a brand new banner and they dedicated their season to David. And it was really beautiful. They had it all at all their track meets.
And they had an all-throwers meet, which is phenomenal because that isn't something that really happens, and the AIA approved it.
Wow.
And they had over like 400 participants. These are just throwers events. We had teams come in from Tucson and Flagstaff, and I got to speak with a lot of the coaches, and they said, we want to do it again. We're here because of your son. St. Mary's High School dedicated their football season this year to David also. And then next week, basketball, the girls program has dedicated their season to David. And they're going to honor him on that night. So we've been very fortunate. The Rebel Lounge and all the people he worked with.
And they did a huge event for him as well.
Yeah, they did a benefit concert, and the funds went to Silent Witness, and we met. I had never been there before. And the bands that we spoke with, everybody had nothing but positive things to say. I remember one of the band members came and he said, every time we performed, we were glad when David was there because we felt safe. And even though David worked security, he wasn't one of these guys that would like to, remove patrons with force if needed. He was a type that he'd even tell me, Dad, I like to talk him out of it and, to say, hey, you might need to go home or so you can come back again. But the Rebel Lounge did a really nice evening. That was a nice celebration.
Does the support in all of this that you're seeing give you a little bit of peace and comfort?
It does give you comfort. It's not going to bring my son back, but I just think it's wonderful that these people are doing all this in David's name. That makes me very happy.
We're speaking about David, our son, but there are a lot of causes out there, and we hope that people realize the importance of giving back, just to get involved, because it really makes a difference in people's lives. And, David was very much about that. He was a giving person. And, my wife and I are both teachers. Judy retired last year after 40 years, and my 43rd year. And that's our business. That's what we do. And we hope to give back and inspire kids and help them to be better people.
That's beautiful. And I appreciate you guys speaking out because I know it's not easy, but sharing your story really, helps other families that are possibly in the same position, gives hope to them, and helps, possibly encourage someone who may have witnessed a crime to come forward. Hopefully that will be the case here, that somebody sees this and comes forward. But, before we wrap up, what would you like to tell David?
I'm just so proud of the person that he is. I didn't know how many people David touched, We didn't know all David's friends, but it was such an outpouring of love and affection for him. I miss his laughter and just his overall personality. It's just bigger than life is what my son is.
I'd just like to tell David, we pray to him every night to help us, guide us, give us strength, the courage to continue carrying on. I use the word carrying on because moving on means you leave people behind. Mm-hmm. And we carry David with us everywhere. You know, his pictures in our car, wherever we go. We just ask him to help us to, you know, use his name and what happened to him for the benefit of other people and other causes, just to let him know that he's gone from this earth, but he's with us in our hearts, our minds, you know, our spirit, and we know that that'll be forever. So we just want him to know we love him and miss him.
Thank you so much again. I really appreciate it. I know it's not easy, and my heart and thoughts are with you and your family always as we continue as a community honoring the life and legacy of David Denogean.
Thank you.